Hey everyone, it's Clint. I'm gonna see how fast I can do this video because I'm gonna be streaming at some point. So yeah, we'll get there. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. There's been a lot of developments in the past week on a lot of levels. I know just for me personally, it's been kind of weird around here in the great state of Utah, like school cancellations, people working from home, and I did end up getting a package of toilet paper just because I kind of needed one and I was worried that there wouldn't be any, but there was like 4 or 5 left on the shelf and I got one. If I need more than one, I will use a hose. All right, so we're gonna get into the comic book industry. It's funny that everybody's an expert, but like you just got to do a little bit of research and just see what's going on to at least form an opinion on how the comic book industry is doing. The economy is going to take a hit. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't think anybody really knows, how bad. Or you talk to some people and it's like, oh no, nothing's going to happen. Around here, they have shut down gatherings over 100 people. So I don't know what that's going to do to restaurants and things like that. But I'm interested to see how it does for a sick comic book industry. It's almost like the most vulnerable of industries that is around, the comic book industry. So we're going to get into some of this. First, let me remind you, though, the Downcast Rise and Fall is on Indiegogo. Still, we're at $32,410, 2 backers away from hitting 700 backers. If you haven't backed it yet, I would check it out. You can get the VIP bundle. You get the digital book. A lot of people said they wanted that. So far, I've got one taker. Or you can get both copies, Volume 1 and Volume 2, $35. You're all caught up. All right, so now I have complained a little bit about some of the specific semantics when it comes to the comic book industry. Some people will say that comics are dying. My complaint has been, what exactly does that, what do you mean by dying? You mean that there won't be any comics anywhere, that the industry will be dead? I think most people agree. We're talking about the direct market. We're talking about diamond distribution. That makes a heck of a lot more sense to me. You're going to be able to get comic books, but it's going to be, I think, much more of a cottage industry than it has been in the past. All right, so we're going to hear a little bit from the other side of the spectrum. This would be the everything's fine kind of section of the industry. Ron Mars here, maybe you've seen this. He said, one of the dudes in my mentions chirping about comics are dying has a feed full of Alex Jones and semi-naked anime girls. So an academic. That is right. Everything is fine. We're going to listen to Ron Mars a little bit more. Everything is so fine that when one comic book shop opened, it is headline news in comics. I just did a little search for comics news. Here you go. And I don't want to be too sarcastic about this. Opening a new comic shop, that's great. I wish this business well. I hope they do well. Following soft opening, His and Hers Comics to start regular hours Wednesday. Well, how is that for great timing when everybody's out looking for toilet paper or locking themselves in their own homes? We're just so used to hearing about comic shops closing that it does seem awfully strange to have one opening. But already I'm identifying maybe some of the problem, and that is that nostalgia is driving so much of the comic book industry. It's so hard to even measure how much it's driving things and driving business decisions that I think often are poor business decisions. Is it really a good idea to open a brick and mortar comic book shop today? I don't think so. I'm sorry. I've just got to call it how it is. I love comic book shops. Trust me, if you own a comic book shop, my heart goes out to you. I hope that you do well and you find ways to thrive in the economy and in the current market. But if starting a new comic book shop comes from your memories of buying comics yourself and you want to recreate that, I think there's got to be more to it than that. There has to be a viable business reason why having a brick and mortar comic book shop is a good idea. Here you go, even right in the article, here's the quote. I get new comics every week. Every Wednesday, there will be a shipment of new books, Marvel, DC, Dark Horse, IDW, and countless others, Morgan said. We're hoping to carry old toys, new toys, and vintage pop culture items. You know, the kind of stuff that people just go to eBay to buy anyway, or they wait until, I don't know, they can find it in a dollar bin somewhere. No, guys, comics in general are not dying. The medium will exist strictly because of this reason, because people love it so much. But it's like, I don't see of any way of it becoming this cheap form of entertainment that it used to be. It's just changed so much. The best form of cheap entertainment as far as comics go is going to be alternate comics. And even with alternate comics, they're selling so much more directly to people over the internet than they are through the direct market. I think that's the way things are going. All right, so Ron Morris kind of continues on here. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. So I can tell you a few things. One, comics are doing pretty well. Could always be doing better, but if there's a wide range of material for a wide range of readers, especially kids, that's very good news. This is not a correct metric to measure the health of an industry. There's too many titles. There are too many titles. I'm going to push back on this, especially for kids things. Those books are hard to find in the comic book shop. They've been very difficult for me to find for my kids. And so, we're getting, books elsewhere that they like. That's beside the point though. That's not a good way to measure success. Marvel's going to pump out as many books as they possibly can. That does not mean that the industry is healthy. That just means that they're trying to literally drown out all their competition. Number two, there's always going to be unhappy people who want to throw rocks at anybody they can and who are quite willing to believe the grievance snake oil sold to them by people exploiting them for money and adulation, tale as old as time. All right, so this is kind of a loaded statement. Have I seen, in some cases, people who are deliberately throwing rocks or, making videos, writing articles, explicitly trying to stoke fear so that they can make money, or that, that's their intent, is to make money? Sure, I've seen that. Generally speaking, though, that's a very failed way to do crowdfunding. I've just got to assume that's what he's talking about. There's a massive misconception that it's really easy to fool a lot of people and that you can just say, everyone be worried and pay me money and it'll work. It might work in some very small corner cases, but generally speaking, people have a very good idea of what is, earnest concerns. And also if it lines up with what you're seeing in reality, that makes sense. So here's the thing. Yes, fanaticism exists everywhere. I will grant you that. It's part of human nature. You're going to get some kind of a fringe everywhere where there's fanaticism. Having said that, that is not a good argument to those people throwing rocks. Motivation has nothing to do with it. You have to look at the specifics and see if there's any merit to their claims. Are there really problems with sales in the comic book industry? You didn't address that. What you did is you pointed to the number of comics that are being poured out by comic book companies that are backed by big, massive corporations. Of course, they've got money to do that. The sales don't matter. Number three, once in a while, you can explain to someone how things work or show some facts and they'll get it. But far more often, they're so invested in the sense of community that their bubble gives them, they reject it all. What facts did you give? There have been no facts yet. Just the statement of, I like facts. It's like people saying, oh, well, I like science. What specifically do you like? Like, point to something specific. You can't just, it's not just the general term, well, I've got facts on my side. Name one. Also, this bubble that people live in, that is rich. That is literally the problem with the comic book industry, is that there's a bubble and you have to be a certain way to get into that bubble. Number four, not much you can do about it except use your mute and block buttons to whatever extent makes you comfortable. Now hold on here. Muting or blocking somebody because they are not happy about the comic book industry, even if they specifically use the words comics are dying, is that really a reason to mute or block that person? That seems kind of extreme. Your social media is your garden, and you should cultivate it as you want. Prune the weeds and invasive species. Wow, Jiminy Cricket. You don't owe anyone your time or attention. Well, what's the point of social media then? I get it, like, Twitter's annoying. There are definitely people that have no good intention and they just literally want to waste your time. But it was my understanding that Twitter initially kind of started up as one of those platforms that you could actually talk to companies and say, hey, there's a problem with your X, Y, or Z product. and they would publicly address you back. And, in some cases, in best cases, they would correct the problem. That is completely changed. It's become just this personal social media platform for many people. Number 5, I also think that there are far more good people than bad people here. Oh, I wouldn't be so sure. Number 6, buy the comics you like. There's a lot of choices more than ever. Comics evolve, and so do a lot of comics readers. Is anybody saying otherwise? This is called a straw man argument. Nobody is telling you to buy comics that you don't like. That is ridiculous. I'm never going to buy comics that I don't like or that I don't hope to like, right? The comics have to interest me. They're too darn expensive and there's too many of them. You got to sell it. That's how it works all the way around. That's ridiculous. Number 7, comics do not work like a restaurant where you order what you want off a menu and it's made specifically for you. Comics work like a supermarket where there's a myriad of choices on the shelves and you can pick what appeals to you, except for toilet paper because it's all gone. Now, this is really hypocritic right here, because this is exactly the kind of activism that I have problems with and many people have problems with. It's what Comicsgate, all as far as I'm concerned, started from, and that was extremists, activists deciding that they wanted to pick and choose what kinds of characters were in comics, what changes they want made, and the comic book industry capitulated to those demands. So now when there's no Raisin Bran left on the shelf, and that's what everyone wanted, that's what they were used to getting, and instead you've got, I don't know, frou-frou puffs or something, now all of a sudden you've changed the rule, and it goes back, the whole thing has changed. Number 8, you reap what you sow. If you're going to be antagonistic and rude to someone, particularly in the first interaction, don't be surprised and cry foul when that's exactly what you get in return. Again, this is a description of just what happens on Twitter. Yes, I'm amazed at when I'm on Twitter how many people just love and promote Twitter, and they'll get really upset if somebody leaves Twitter or something like that, like it's some battleground to be won. That is the problem with Twitter, is that everybody thinks it's some kind of battleground and that you're going to gain some kind of social points. This is why virtue signaling exists, because there's social points that you can get, and Twitter is the epicenter of all virtue signaling. And number 9, wash your hands. Okay. Ha ha. All right, now everyone's entitled to an opinion, and I actually like when stuff like this comes up, believe it or not, because it makes a good conversation point. Now that I want to go over and convince Ron Mars that he's wrong or he should change his mind, that is a fool's errand. Again, that's what Twitter is all set up to do. You can talk to anybody literally anytime you want and demand that they think and feel the same way that you think and feel. I think a better route is like, he's making some points here. Let's have a conversation here. Time will tell, that's for sure. I think that there are definitely valid points to be made as to why the comic book industry is in trouble. Probably if you're watching, you already know this and you might agree with it, but let me know what you think in the comments below about all of this. Do you have all your toilet paper? Are you buying comics? I kind of want to just go on a shopping spree. I already have so many books to read. I need to read more, but I got to say, I'm genuinely concerned about the comic book industry, especially because I believe that the economy is going to take a pretty big hit here. And so I want comics to do well. I do. But at the moment, things are not looking great. So we'll see. Let me know all of your opinions, and I will see you next time.